Hi, this is Rory with Be Wealthy with Rory Turnkey Investing, and I had another question come in my inbox that I want to go ahead and answer. Question is, how do you correctly go about submitting slash presenting an offer on a property? So, in order to submit an offer on a property, you need to know a couple different things. First off, you gotta kind of when a sale comes in, or offer or seller calls, you need to kind of get some information, basic information. You need to build some rapport on the phone in order to get this information, because it's kind of like going on a date. I mean, you're gonna need to know what the seller's wanting to get for the property, and it's just like you're going on a date. When you first go on a date, you're not like, oh, you trying to go back to my crib. No, you kind of actually gotta go out to eat, have a good time, get to know each other, and see if you're even the right person to even that you should be talking to. So when I say that, you should actually be talking to the seller on the phone and seeing if they're actually the property is in a condition or it meets the needs, because it may be a property that's already completely fixed up. The seller is not in any rush to sell, so that means they can wait however long it takes, and they want to get the maximum highest price. And I'll be honest with you, if that is the case, you may just want to let them know, hey, you should probably list this property with a realtor, because you're not going to probably be the person, and it's not even going to be a deal that you're going to be able to buy, to be realistic. So there's no point in kind of trying to, put a square inside of a circle. It's just not happening. So move on to the next lead. And if you're fighting to try to get those kind of leads, then the chances are is you don't have enough leads in your funnel, and you need to market more to get better leads. So, but just getting back to the question, I mean, how to correctly submit slash present offers on a property. First, I mean, the sellers has to be reasonable. They have to have a starting point. I've never came across a deal where the seller was like crazy wanting the price right away, and I was able to get a deal done right away, and their expectations were extremely, out of a ballpark with what I could pay for a property. Now there has been cases when sellers was unrealistic, and at some point, over time, I followed up with them, and they became more realistic in terms of what they can get for their property. So I will say that that happens, but usually, I say usually, on a seller's expectation, let's say I need to be at 100,000 and they are at 200 or 250. That extremely big gap is not gonna get covered over. Just reducing the price. So what the seller's expectations in terms of what they want for their price has to be close or pretty reasonable to where you need to be at in terms of price. And how do you kind of bridge that gap? Then you have to know what your fix-up cost is. You need to know what comparable properties in similar condition as the sellers is selling for, and other things you got to take into account is the after repair value of the property. And that's once the property is all fixed up, what it'll sell for. And I will say that there's two different things. You have to look at the after repair value in this current market. You also want to look what new developments are selling for, because depending on the neighborhood, you may be able to knock the house down and put a brand new house on it and make the numbers work. So in the current market, the way things are going right now, there's a lot of new development going, and I encourage you to evaluate deals that way as well. So you're going to need to know what the after repair value is of the property when it's remodeled and fixed up, what the new development, what the property can sell for if you knock it down and put a new house on, especially if it's a smaller house in a good neighborhood. So you need to know those numbers, and what you got to do is pretty much work backwards. You determine what the after repair value is. You then have to know what the fix up cost is. That's where you ask the seller questions to find out what's going on the inside of the property. You go out and evaluate it as well. That'll determine how much it costs to fix it up. Then you have the holding costs. If you're using you have to just you got to know what the going rate is for hard money lenders in your area, or if they're using their own money. Hard money lenders in my area, Seattle, I know all day is 12%, 4 points, possibly 2 points in some investors. So that's what the going rate is in this area. So I kind of use that in terms of knowing where I would need to be at if I was going to continue and buy the property, or if I'm going to wholesale it to another buyer. So your holding cost is just pretty much your property taxes. Let's say it's going to take them 5 to 6 months to do the deal, to do the remodel and put it back on the market and sell them. Well, that's 6 months of property taxes that your end buyer is going to have to pay. You have to take into account holding costs like insurance, like utilities, and money costs, which is hard money costs. That's the holding cost that you have to take into account, that you have to back out of the deal. and evaluating to see how much it costs. And then the last bit is the selling cost. And they typically, a lot of buyers and buyers, cash buyers, are going to be selling with an agent. They're going to have closing costs. In my area, they have an excise tax, which is pretty much 2% of the sale price right off top. Then you got 3% and 3% for two agents. That's 6%. So you're at 8% already. You haven't even taken into account the property taxes you got to take into account, maybe staging the property. So you're at 8 to 10% in my market for your selling costs. So you have to minus that price out as well, and then you have to minus out a profit. So what a reasonable profit would be for how much work that you're putting into the property, and then you got to minus out your fee, and that's how you get an accurate number where you need to be at. And typically, if you look at comparable properties with the similar square footage, you're able to pull comps that's in the range where you need to be at to sell the property that's in similar condition as the property that you're buying. And if the seller has the understanding and expectations, then they know that you are in this business to make a profit. You have to buy the property to make a profit. You show them those numbers and the expectations of what all the cost really is, that and they see you're not making a really ton of a lot of money, they're really reasonable and they'll accept your price. So that's a couple ways to get the price down, and that's how I pretty much present my offer to sellers. I show them the numbers, I walk them through the whole steps, and I submit the offer. Sometimes you have to follow up. Sometimes you may have to leave some room for negotiating, but ultimately that's the way to submit slash present an offer on a property and get it accepted. All right, this is Rory. Be wealthy with Rory. Hope that answers your question.